Lovely, lovely Monday here. It's a little overcast. Oh, actually, it looks clear now, but very springy and a little wet this weekend, which is exciting for Californians. I have a little bit of a cold, though, so I'm sorry if I sound a little icky.
You sound great.
Do I?
You always sound great.
Get out of here. I'm a little scratchy. Hello, Liz. Good morning, Sandra. Good morning, friends. Yeah, it started with a little sore throat, but
And has lingered for days.
not the sore throat. It was just a sore throat for a day, and now it's just like a little sniffles. Hello, everyone. How's everybody doing? Hey, friends.
Everybody's
So good
jumping
to
in
see
early
you,
today.
Deborah. Yay! It's the last Monday of the month. Is that right? Happy Monday, Jessica. I can't believe it. This month flew by. Isn't it? Oh, Josette. A little too fast. Good morning, Sue. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, I feel like the school year's flying by now. Good morning, Judy. Like, I have a senior, and her senior year is wrapping up real fast. Yikes, prom. Is that this weekend, Mr. John?
Yes, it is.
Scratchy throat there too. I got it from you, Cheryl. Yeah, so we're in prom mode. Happy Monday from Canada. Hello, Laura.
Yeah, and the dress is
Annie.
still yet to come. I think it's arriving this Wednesday. So
Tuesday.
Yeah,
Everyone cross everything. Hopefully it fits. Hopefully it works. Inquiring minds want to know what shapes to make for May. That's a great question, Cindy. That's a really good question. What did I end up going with? I've been switching back and forth between two lessons for next month. Good morning, Jody. And I ended up. Let me think. Which one did I end up going with? Oh, okay. So really, okay, Cindy. I'm gonna make it so right now. I'm gonna put this out in the universe. It could be any shape. That's what I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go with any shape. I think with the techniques and stuff, any shape. But I would go. Did I lose audio?
It was just popping a bit, so I was fixing
Okay.
it.
I would go a big cookie. I would go kind of bigger, like what I was working on a lot. Good morning. I was working on my circle knot cookies, which is a nice size. I would go like, I feel like this technique is better on a bigger one, a little easier, and you can kind of play with it more with a bigger size cookie. So I'd say bake up 3 good size circles. The bigger the, no. Yeah, some good circles. You started right out of the gate with Easter this month. Yeah. Boom. Easter was so early this year, wasn't it? Too. With your lavender set, you should come visit Lavender Fields. Oh, I love lavender. Love it. It grows like crazy here too. It's interesting how different lavender can be depending on where it grows too, isn't it? Like it looks different. I think it all smells pretty similar. Yeah. Thanks for making me accountable, Cindy. I know it's good. I know when you guys have baking days, it's like, let's get these ready, and it gives you a little jump start on your homework, which I know is nice too. So today I thought I was just thinking about like the creative process, and I know everybody's is different, and it's always interesting to me to hear how people, their process kind of goes. And so I thought I'd talk a little bit about mine, but I'd love to hear about yours as well. I think, if you can't draw, or if you feel like you can't draw, or if you're more of a planner, I think so many things play into your creative process. So I think everybody kind of does it a little differently. And I think mine has changed over the years. I really used to not plan at all, but teaching has changed that. And I've seen how, beneficial that is to the whole process. So yeah, I want to chat about the creative process and kind of strengthening your creative muscles and kind of making that process better serve your end results, so I do have some little thoughts here. So my first, and I've kind of talked about this before a little bit similarly, but this is from kind of a little brainstorm I had years ago that I shared at CookieCon. And so my first question is, if you were just told, make a butterfly cookie, what would your butterfly look like? And you would see like such a variety from different people. Like it would look like totally different depending on who you are. You're in a major creative slump. Okay, yeah. So hopefully this can kind of help you think through things. I've been there. I think we all have, where you're like, okay, I'm just not inspired. And how do you get there? And how do you, what can you do to help that? I think, yeah, we've definitely all had those little dry spells. So you want to think about what, if they give you anything to go off of, no parameters, no nothing, just make a butterfly cookie. It could be, very realistic, or it could be really cute. It could be cartoony. It could be, really loose and artistic, and not look like a real butterfly at all, or something you'd see in nature, or it would look like a photograph of what you'd see in nature. So that's when I think it's good to break down kind of the styles, because I think it helps me kind of strengthen those weak ones, those weak styles that aren't natural to me. I like to think outside, because sometimes I get so caught up in what I'm strong in that I kind of ignore the other ones, where sometimes it suits some clients better, or it suits some parties better. So really exploring different styles than what you're used to can really serve you well too. So the 4 basic food groups, in my opinion, as far as styles, are whimsical. And we saw some, a lot of different samples in the last picture of that. Whimsical, like this one down at the bottom left corner. It's so cute. It's whimsical. It's fun. And then we see some abstract ones, like the ones right next to it, with just the real like loose coloring, little abstract. But then it has like a little graphic punch on it, which is the next one, the graphic. So that one has a combination, which is really interesting. You can combine them. It's not always very cleanly in one category. So the graphic, that one's just really clean. I feel like a lot of lettering fall. If you're really strong with lettering, that fits in that graphic category. And then realistic is really what I am drawn to. I tend to go very realistic, like which can kind of limit me if I rely too strongly on that. Sometimes I'm too literal, where it's sometimes really good to not be that literal and kind of open up your mind a little bit to other things. And that's where you want it to look exactly like it does in nature. So think about what your butterfly looks like. And then the next step for me is, well, I think the rule is don't ever, unless there's a little caveat, unless you're super, super desperate, do not search for butterfly cookies. So you're making butterfly cookies, don't search for butterfly cookies, because what you want to do, that will give you other people's interpretation of a butterfly. You don't want someone else's interpretation. You want your interpretation. You want the person who's asking you to make the cookies, you want their thoughts on it. Like what are you going for? Are you going for a magical fairy tale type of look? Are you going for a realistic look? It really depends on what event you're doing it for. And so you don't want to search for other people's interpretation, but that's the problem with searches. When you search for the specific cookies, you're going to find other people's interpretation. All of these cookies are adorable in different ways. They're eye-catching. They're great, and they would fit a lot of different styles, a lot of different people's needs. But think about what style, what feel you want to communicate. Those look like those represented the 4 food groups right there. But visual aids are a great thing. I definitely think you should search for things. I think it's helpful to look at the real deal. So when you want a visual aid, like if you were to make a bicycle, to not use a visual aid is it's just mean. You just going off of what you remember is not a good idea for certain things. Sometimes it's great, if you want to think like what's in my brain. I think that's a great exercise to do. Like, okay, I'm going to make an apple cookie. I'm just taking it from my brain. I've seen an apple a billion times. I'm going to do, an apple just based on what's already floating around in here. And that's a good strengthening exercise for your brain.
I think also the more technical, or if there are moving pieces, like you mentioned, a bicycle, the more technical a piece is that you're creating, the more you do want to look at the real deal. Because I think a bicycle is a fantastic point, because when you look at a bicycle and the way that the gears move and the way everything moves, it's put together a certain way. When you ask a child to make that bicycle or to draw it, it won't come out in a way that would be able to be ridden in most cases.
If you ask an adult to draw a bicycle, it wouldn't come out looking.
I would not be able to draw one. Just
that bicycle
freehand, no.
would fall apart. Yeah. Yeah, bicycles, some things or something maybe like you're not familiar with. Somebody's like, hey, I want something to feel like I don't know kid shows anymore, but I think of Dora the Explorer. Like, I want a Dora the Explorer theme. And you're like, okay, I've never seen Dora the Explorer. Think there are definitely like times where you want visual aids. But if someone says, I would like a Beauty and the Beast set, and you think, okay, I want to do Beauty and the Beast set, but I don't want to make the character because of copyright, right? So I would like to make something that's in my brain. That's a great way to do something that's not copyrighted. Like, I have a lot of Beauty and the Beast knowledge in my brain, but instead of looking at an exact, so there are sometimes you don't want a visual aid, right? So I don't want an exact copy of her dress, but I kind of feel like there's a lot of volume in the skirt. It's a ball gown. It's this. There's draping fabric and things like that. Your dress would look like that feel of Beauty and the Beast, but it would not be the exact dress. Which, that's a great way to get the feel of like a specific character without doing, something exact.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah, you want, and you can even think about the color.
Yeah,
I believe certain colors are even like copyrighted. Mickey's red that's in his shorts, the color of certain Legos, those are like copyrighted. I think is John Deere green is a copyrighted color. So you want to go off of what you have in your head and not make something exact, especially when you are dealing with issues of copyright.
Yeah. That's a good time to not look at a visual aid if be inspired, like really inspired by and not an exact copy. Other things are like inspired by and it's like the exact thing. If you want to do a Beauty and the Beast set, I would suggest starting with your color palette, Pantyhose first. Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of times when you get an order too, they'll come with you with a palette in mind. So sometimes you need to make it fit with a lot of parameters, which I don't know. I like when people give you parameters because that way it gives you a lot more to go off of about what they want rather than what you want. So a lot of things will inform you. Like I did a Beauty and the Beast set, oh my gosh, a long time ago, but they wanted it to be, they called it acid yellow and acid pink. Those were the colors with the Beauty and the Beast set. And of course I didn't do characters or anything. It was just like they wanted the feel, the princess feel. So there's a really acid neon colored party that had the feel of those things in it, which was interesting. So yeah, visual aids are really good. So don't look for lavender cookies. Don't look for lavender cookies. Look for lavender. Look for lavender bouquet, and then that's your interpretation is going to be what ends up on the cookie rather than someone else's. So my interpretation, because I like realism, was very similar to the picture that I saw. So I wanted that little tightly gathered bouquet of lavender wrapped with a bow. And then I really wanted it to look like there was a sprig of lavender sitting on top of a cookie. And so I looked up, the sprig, and the bouquet. And then that was my interpretation, was very literal, which is pretty typical of me. And so this goes into finding inspiration. So, which is what we kind of chat about, like, okay, I'm not feeling it right now. What is inspiration, and you know, how we can kind of encourage it. So what I do is I like to take pictures when I feel something. And it's not necessarily like, oh my gosh, that's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Sometimes it is. But it's when it makes me feel anything. If something makes me feel scared, if something makes me feel creeped out, that's inspiration. It doesn't have to be one feeling of like, oh, that's it has to be beautiful. It's just anything that makes you feel something like, oh, that makes me feel uncomfortable even. Those feelings can serve you as a visual. Like that visual speaks to me in some way. Waiting for orders. Then cookie for yourself. Which is a great way to exercise your creative muscles too. Sometimes you need a cookie for yourself. That's what I feel like gets me out of creative slumps, is when I can play with different things that I wanted to. 'Cause there's a list of things that I want to get to, and I'm never going to get to all of them. They wanted Beauty and the Beast inspired cookies rather than to duplicate Beauty and the Beast exactly. Yes, yeah. And sometimes they do want the character. You know, sometimes they do want, like, I want, you know, all these bell heads, and I don't like to do characters. I avoid doing characters that are copyrighted. So I always, if someone asks that, I'm always like direct them to like, hey, let's do a feel of this instead of a specific exact character. Good morning, Carb. So to quote Pee Wee Herman, that you know, brilliant. Take a picture; it will last longer. So in this specific picture, I saw this paper three-dimensional stage right here. This isn't actually a picture. Funnily enough, I wasn't allowed to take a picture of this. I was in a shop in Italy, and there were all these little signs everywhere. No pictures, no pictures. And it was like a mask shop, and but it had these three-dimensional stages that I just was like fascinated by, and I thought it was so beautiful, and just the depth of it really inspired me. Sorry, my earring keeps falling out. I have like the weirdest shaped. And so it made me feel something, and I was so like, I didn't even know why, or you know, what I would do with it. It just was like, I need to remember this. I think it's amazing. And it wasn't until years later till I used it. And I didn't even have a picture on my phone. I didn't have a picture on my anywhere. It was just in my head. But later I know I'd never seen anything like it. It was just fascinating. So yeah, it was years later when I was asked to be a collaboration, a circus collaboration, that I thought, oh, I'd love to get that feel that I saw in that three-dimensional stage in this set, you know, because I'm drawn to that circus kind of vibe. And I thought if I could combine the two. So I made my own scene and decided to bake the cookies in layers so it would mimic that kind of feel that I got when I saw that paper stage. If I had a picture of it, you know, it would have, I don't know, it might have actually looked different. But what I was able to do, of course, was to Google it later, because I'd remembered like, oh my gosh, that stage is so cool. So I did Google the paper dimensional stage and was able to kind of go like, okay, I remember that. And I could see how that was kind of built. So I ended up creating my own interpretation of that three-dimensional stage, which you could do this for so many scenes. I mean, I want to make like 3D stages for all kinds of things, fairy tales or plays or something. So I used it, and you know, you can really find that inspiration everywhere. Anytime you see something that makes you think like, ooh, I'm really drawn to that font. I'm drawn to the look of this, or the juxtaposition of this. And that happened. I was at a like a little boutique kind of clothing store, and they just had this really rustic wall on one of their in their shop. Everything else was very clean and, you know, very curated and everything. And then there was this rough wall, and I loved the look of it. And so I just was, I think I took a picture of it, but it looked very similar to this picture here. And I just like the boards. And so I was like, okay, how can I translate that wall into a cookie? And lo and behold, yeah, somebody gave me an order for it was actually the first time I did it was this deer cookie here, this oh dear, it was a baby shower. They were like, okay, we want it to be this deer theme. And I was like, okay, I'm getting this in there because I really thought that wall was cool looking. And that's when I created that beadboard, that rustic board background. And you know what's funny is I hated it. I really didn't like it. I was like, oh, I don't love how this is looking. And then I ended up putting like really clean things with it, like tying it in with other things that were a little cleaner. And it came together. I was like, okay. And it was so late at night, and I went to bed. And the next morning, I looked at it again. I'm like, okay, I think I like it. Sometimes you need to step back too, when you're getting creative and trying new things. It's like just taking a step back from it can help too. And then I started getting just just piles of emails and messages going like, okay, what is this? Tell me about this board background. And this was, I don't know, 6 years ago or so. So it was like
Oh no,
before
it was
this
longer
was,
than that.
I don't even know. I remember that was the last time I taught in Italy. I was coming back. I was jet lagged, but I had this order due. So I don't even know when that was, but it wasn't something that had been on cookies before. And it was just like, tell me about this thing. And I'm like, oh, okay. And it was just, it went all over the place. It went crazy. I mean, and it's changed and it's morphed and it's such a cool, but it was like all like, it was a wall. That's where it kind of started. It was just a simple wall. So
And
inspiration can be from anywhere.
stepping back from your work, like you mentioned, that can help a lot too. One thing that has always stuck in my mind, and it's something that you said a while ago, is that every cookie goes through an awkward teenage phase,
Yeah.
and I think that's so smart to be able to look at your product and say, this isn't what I want yet, but it's not finished.
Yeah. There's so many times that I've pushed through that awkward teenage phase. My cookie was just stuck in puberty, pre-puberty level, and just figuring out what's not working can lead to your best kind of designs. Thanks, Deborah. Yeah, and it's funny how things morph too, and so many more, and how like messing up on something can even be a jumping off point for something completely different. Like, oh wait, this kind of was working here, but then when I got to this point, it didn't work together. Push through that awkward phase. I know I did in life and in cookies, right? Oh, I'm still in that awkward phase.
We all did.
We all push through. This one, okay, so it says get a clue, and this one is when you're in the process. And in this specific case, I was given this order, and the person just wanted some really beautiful cookies and gave me very few details. They were like, I want to make these cookies for my great aunt. She loves her dogs. And that's pretty much all she told me. She's like, she loves her dogs, and I just want to make special cookies for her. And I trust you. Oh, those are the worst words ever. I mean, it's nice to be trusted and to go wherever you want, but when you don't know the person and they want you to make special cookies for a specific person, you want them to be special too, right? And you're like, okay, I don't know how I can get there. But so she sent me pictures of her great aunt's dogs, and they were adorable. So I'm like, okay, definitely dogs. That's happening. But so I had to kind of be an investigator, kind of sleuth out what else might make these cookies special for this lady. And so I looked in the backgrounds of these pictures of these dogs, and I saw, there was toile patterns, there were florals. So I'm like, okay, this great aunt is fancy. She likes, maybe a little old fashioned, which is awesome. Same. I sort of life. And so I kind of went with really, and just based on her age, I was kind of trying to get clues just from the dog's surroundings and assuming that that was the great aunt's surroundings as well. There's a picture of the dog on the bed, and there was floral bedding, and so just kind of drawing from those clues. You can, and it doesn't have to just be from pictures. Like, it's better to get the clues from the person, but if you don't have that going for you, just get clues from wherever you can. And it's a lot easier to kind of stalk people now, to get clues from the actual person. Stalking can be a good thing. I guess that's the last thing.
Yeah, you heard it from Arty. Go ahead and stalk if it helps you to get to your cookie dreams.
I mean, when people put things out in public, is it called stalking? I don't know. I mean, I guess
public domain, baby.
Yeah, you're putting out this information, and it's free for you to gather for that person. Yeah, it's a lot easier now to kind of gather if they're on social media about their likes and dislikes. Yeah, these dogs were fun. So, and that's why I added crowns to them. I'm like, she's fancy. We're gonna make her dogs fancy. Let's elevate the dog status. And that leads into my other thought. When you're kind of looking for inspiration, is it's always a good idea to personalize to the person. That you can't ever go wrong. I feel like every time I've done that, the person is like, how did you know? How did you know that this animal or this butterfly or this meant so much to me personally? And you put something into the cookies that you didn't know was like a different level of connection for the person, and just kind of worked out. I feel like there's like this little, I don't know, energy that you kind of get from people, and it can inform your cookies. So like doing, cookies specifically of people, of their animals, it's always a win. So these animals and these people are very specific and very personal to the people. And that's always works in everyone's favor. When a stranger says, I trust you, I get like, yeah, it's like, that's nice, but it's hard if you don't have some clues. Yeah, getting as much information as you can is always good. Less work for you. Don't have to go stalking, right? The other thing that I think is important is getting the right feel for things. I think that is probably my biggest motivator when I do cookies is the feeling that you want to create. You want to communicate. You always want to communicate with your cookies, and it's all about communicating the right things. And that is informed by the fonts you use, by the color palettes. So creating a mood board is a really good idea. Of course, you're going to get your information from your person. Get as many clues as you can. Hopefully, they don't trust you too much. Hopefully, they give you, a color palette to work with. An invitation is always a good idea. You can see what mood they are kind of angling for, and then any details that they want to give you. So I have this list of things, which is mood or direction or a bunch of crap that won't end up on the cookie. I think that helps me to kind of keep that like, okay, this is the feel, because a lot of people who are throwing parties are like, I want it to feel like this. And they don't even have like the details down yet, but they have a feeling that they want at the event. And so I put in things that help direct that. Like, I'm maybe not going to use these particular flowers on the cookies, or I'm not going to put that candelabra on the cookie, but it helps my, feelings going into the cookies. The color palette, I like to be directed by that, because then it just ties everything together. Go back to the mood board one. Yeah, thank you. And then the non-negotiables are the ones that they have to have in it. Like, I need a monogram in it. You want to put that on your mood board. You want to pick your font and make sure it's on there. The non-negotiables are the colors. I always say in my day job, out of scope is sometimes as important as in scope. I love that. Yeah, definitely. There's so many things to draw inspiration from and feelings from. And yeah, I think it all informs the end result. And the shapes, if that's important, if like their invitation is an interesting shape, or it has interesting shapes on it, you might want to incorporate that into your cookies. It just all helps tie everything together. And sketches, if you can, it's always a good idea to draw out some ideas using, your cookie cutters and sketching within there what you want. or photos. If you don't have that, if you're like, I just can't draw, you don't have to. It's not as important, I don't think. But so those are some things that you can incorporate in your mood boards to help direct you. And then go with the feeling. You know, it's interesting. I think a lot of people want a lot of different feelings and things. I think I want it to be a magical woodland fairy tale, moss, and you know, there's a lot of things that can go into it. You don't have to use them all, but you want to definitely make sure that feeling is in there. So my next picture is just a couple of very different kind of feelings that I've been chasing, you know, in different sets. I don't keep myself in too tight of parameters. I really like kind of eclectic collections. And if I have some rustic, I want really clean. I like to combine different feelings to get that overall, you know, to hit all those notes, to tell a whole story. Like I want a little bit of this, a little bit of that, to get all those feelings included. I don't want any feelings left out. And go to the next one. It's just, you know, this one has some architecture, some, this is where my realism is really kind of, I felt like it kind of limited me. Like you could do some really cute, like the Parthenon here, like how adorable would that be as a graphic, you know, look. Sometimes you want to get outside your comfort zone and sometimes you want to stay in there. It just depends on how much time, like I feel I'm always like kind of juggling those two. Like how much do I want to grow and how much do I want to sit in my comfort zone? I think we all like to just sit in our comfort zone, but that's not how you really strengthen those weaknesses. So here I'm sitting right in my comfort zone. And then other times, you know, just like getting out of that is really good for learning new things.
And when you're exploring a set, do you do?
Oh, you know what? My earbud is dead. I think my battery's dead.
That's
so I
why.
can't hear
Okay,
what you're saying.
that's okay. That's okay. Well, I'll type it.
I'm sure he said something really useful. Sorry, I can't hear you. That's funny. I think I can switch my speaker to. Let me see if I can do that here really quick so I can hear you. I cannot. Okay, we'll get out of there. So, which leads to all these things lead up to kind of say, do you spend more time on the prep of the set and research or on the set itself? I usually don't spend a whole lot of time on prep. It's usually my prep consists of like, okay, here's the feeling I'm chasing. Here's some visuals that will help me get there and some music. And then I just go. For teaching, it's a little different. I do plan that out quite a bit more, but it's much more on the decorating part. I'm not a huge planner. It's more about like, I want to feel this and how do I get there? And then I play kind of. So happy to hear that I need to kick it. Wait, so happy to hear that I need to get to kick it. I'm not, was there a typo? I'm not quite understanding what that the next part, which you do you better than anybody else. I think sometimes we get caught up in like, but I want my cookies to look like this. Or sometimes even people bring you cookies and say, I want these cookies to look like this, and it's someone else's. It's not a bad thing necessarily to be inspired. I mean, it's a great thing to be inspired by other people, but also realize that, okay, that makes sense, Cheryl. I love it. You do you better than anybody else. You bring something different to the cookie table than anybody else can, and you see things differently than anybody else does. So don't underestimate your view and your interpretation of your butterfly or your cat or whatever it is that you're going to cookie. I think sometimes people really underestimate themselves. AKA, I would suck at being, insert whatever cookier you admire or, you know, kind of look at their style and really enjoy. You're not going to be them. You're not going to make the same cookies they are, which is a great thing. because you're going to make the cookies you're going to make, and it's something, that they would never imagine. So, it's good to be inspired. It's good to learn from other people. Tutorials are amazing at giving you a visual aid of how something works and the mechanics of it and how the icing behaves. And there's constantly new ideas, and it's inspiring, but sometimes it can be overwhelming. And just sometimes it's good to just, okay, I've learned what I can from this person. And now I'm going to try my own spin on it, and I'm going to keep learning from this person, or I'm going to realize, okay, I like how this person does this, but I actually like how I do this thing better, and so a combination of being inspired, but really trusting yourself is a huge thing. I think, as someone who teaches tutorials, heck yes, learn and do it and create, and but always try to think, okay, next time I do this, I'm going to try it this way. I like that in life. That's interesting. This is a microcosm of something, life. That's deep. I love that. So yeah, trust yourself. That's what it comes down to. As you're, strengthening these creative muscles, you have to trust yourself too, to try different things, do it a little differently. If you always go exactly off of what somebody else is doing, you're never going to, you're never going to get those stronger creative muscles that you want. So just, yeah, trust yourself to try new things. And then I just have some interesting pictures because, these are just some food for thought. Food for face, food for thought. I had a thought in my brain that totally went away. So I'm like, into my. Here's something interesting about this cookie right up here up top. See the circular lace right there? The funny thing is that I saw that lace on somebody's shirt, and I was just like, they were sitting in front of me at church, and I was just looking at this lace and going, that is so cool. Didn't take a picture of it. That would have maybe been weird, but no, she's a friend. I could have done it, but I did take a picture here. I'm like, I love how those circles, I've never seen a lace like that. So that was based off of somebody's shirt. But then the other laces on here were out of my own brain. I didn't see it anywhere. I just went, okay, I'm just going to keep adding layers of things coming out of my brain, because it morphs into other things, right? Trust yourself to try some things. What's it going to hurt? Which comes into cookie for yourself sometimes. I think that is the other thing. Those left cookies, that was completely like for me. That wasn't for anything. It was just a play date, to decorate cookies and see what the heck would come out. Is exactly what I need to hear today. Oh, I'm so glad, Samantha. That's awesome. I think sometimes we get caught up. I think I grew up in an earlier cookie age where there weren't a lot of things out there. And so there was a lot of figuring out as I went. And now there's so many things that it feels like a little overwhelming. I think sometimes people can feel really self-conscious maybe. But don't be scared of a blank cookie. Like, see it as an opportunity to be like, okay, this can go anywhere. And don't be scared of where it goes. Sometimes it can be scary. Look at that baby doll. That's called inspiration. That's creepy. That makes you feel something. That creepy little tilt of the head. That's little. Let's see, what else can I get from these pictures? This is a long time ago. Like, I gathered these pictures. Those sports shirts. That was me trying to avoid copyright issues, and so it was how I could get with communicating the feeling that this was a specific team without using logos or putting that team name on there. So that was kind of, sometimes you're inspired by not being sued by companies. That could be an inspiration, right? What? The largest? Wait. What's that? Sorry, I'm not following. Maybe it's my cold. I might. the pineapple one. I don't remember what I was. That was a fun set for sure. Not the team name. Oh, I get it. That was funny. Yeah, that's good. Did I have any other pictures gathered that might or might not mean anything to me now that I'm looking at them? Oh yeah, these are from long ago. Like, look at this. This is the spoon. Like, I think paying attention to details. I think that's probably what this one was about. Just paying attention to details. Yeah. Yeah. Communicating sometimes is avoiding saying something very specific, just depending on thoughts about those very specific copyright issues. It just depends on your train of thought. But I think, yeah, paying attention to details, trusting yourself. If you feel something, take note of it. Whether it makes you feel sad or whether it makes you feel happy. Oh, thank you, Annie. Two of a kind here. You're super talented too. I think that's the other part. Don't be, I think for a long time I shied away from terms like artistic or an artist or things like that. But I think if you're a cookier, you see things differently than most people, and that is a point for you. Like, it's a benefit for you, and you see the world differently than anybody does, and it can serve and inform where your cookies go. You might know a ton about science. Put that in your cookies. You might know a ton about flowers. Use your knowledge and your own specific strengths for how you communicate through your sugar. We do something this week way out of my comfort zone, and I'm already in my head. No. It's always an experiment. I feel like every time I decorate it's an experiment, which means it's a potential failure, for sure. But I learn probably more from those failures than I do from when it turns out exactly like I planned it. Sometimes it's like I plan out a cookie set and it looks like, oh my gosh, it came out exactly like what I drew and I thought in my head. And I move on, right? Yay. Okay, next thing. But when I fail and I'm like, oh shoot, this is not coming together. Why? You have a lot more questions and you do a lot more work, which is a lot more that workout, strengthening those muscles, and you're like, dang, my muscles got really big today. I got a lot more new wrinkles on my brain today. So don't see those failures as failures, but just lessons, right? Like Bob Ross says, my hero, Bob Ross, there are no mistakes, only happy little accidents. Any hints for May McGoo you? Yeah. It's out of my comfort zone. I went, it's not realistic. It's not that super realism that I like or that I'm comfortable with. This is, we're getting a little uncomfortable next month. And I feel like the bigger you work, the more you'll have fun with it, and the more you'll learn and be able to play, and you'll feel less kind of limited in what you can do. So I say make good sized circles, and it'll be fun. I've learned a lot. Talk about more wrinkles on my brain. I got a lot more wrinkles, and I loved it. It was something I didn't think I would really love, but I do now. New for me. That's the sneak peek. I just cookied a roadside tent that sells flowers for Mother's Day. It didn't turn out the way I exactly wanted, but I'm glad I took the time to be creative. Yeah, I need to see that. That's neat. That's cool. Yeah, when I see things like that, I always take note. Like, oh, that's one of my favorite things to note. Like when I am noticing things that inspire me, or things that feel charming. Like that sounds something that's charming. Like, oh, I like the feel of this because it's a charming thing, a roadside stand of flowers, So that feeling, sometimes you do chase like, ooh, I want to feel creeped out, especially at Halloween time. But the most inspired feeling I get is when I'm charmed by something. I'm a romantic at heart. So that's something, yeah, that would definitely be fun to cookie. Those charming scenes. So look out. Maybe in unexpected places for inspiration, for things that make you feel something, and then see how you can translate that feeling into a cookie. Sugar is a different language that can, convey so much. That's what I love about decorating cookies, is it's just, I can communicate so many things. Unexpected things. So go do something unexpected. Try something new. It's always good. You'll grow those big old, maybe piping muscles too. Those are a real thing. But also, your creative muscles. So it was great chatting with you guys. If you ever have any questions, feel free to email. You always inspire me. I'm so happy to be in McGoo. I am so happy you're in McGoo, Susan. You're so great. Such a great McGoober. I enjoy having you. I always enjoy seeing your cookies and all the McGoover's cookies, and where you take them, and what you do with them, and what you've learned from them. It's like this whole creative little lab. I think it begets more and more creativity, just working with other creative people like yourself and like the other McGoobers. Yeah, thank you. I feel like it goes both ways. It's just like, ooh, this is a great idea. This is, we kind of feed off of each other. That's not a good word, but So hopefully you guys have a fantastic week. I'm going to be in full prom mode on this weekend, so that's exciting. That's a new canvas I get to work on. Thank you. Thanks. You always brighten my day. Yay. There was a container sprinkled behind you. I know. I noticed it too. I don't have OCD, but I did notice it. And I thought, where is that guy? And it's for another month that I've been working on. Here's a little sneak peek. Orange sanding sugar coming up on a set pretty soon. And it's, you'd never ever, I'm mirrored here. Never ever guess what the heck we're gonna use it for. It's really funny. I'm planning out several months into the future, and I'm so excited. There's some really fun things coming up. So stay tuned. McGoo, it's super fun. It's so fun for me, and I'm so glad to hear that it's so fun for so many of you. It makes me happy. Have a great week and have a delicious day. We'll see you next Monday. My voice went out right there.